time. This is the special tax levy rate meeting. It's called a meeting order. Setting of the tax levy for the calendar year of 2023. Mr. Featherston, do you have that motion, or Dr. Hager has that motion?
I move that the rate of taxation of the calendar year 2023 be set at .2330 on each $100 of assessed valuation of property within the college district, and that certification of the same be forwarded to the county officials at the appropriate time. This rate reflects a reduction in the taxation rate.
I second the motion.
There's a motion on the floor to make the taxation evaluation of .2330, which is a reduction in taxes. All in favor, it's a roll call vote.
Trustee Featherston?
Yes.
Trustee Richardson? Yes. Trustee Hager?
Yes.
Trustee Garrison?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes, ma'am. All right. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the tax levy rate meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn the tax levy rate meeting.
Mr.
I'll
Featherston?
second that.
Mr. Garrison seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now let's call the regular meeting to order.
Can we have a quick break?
There'll be none of that talk, sir. All right. No, not yet. All right, let's call the meeting to order. Dr. Hager, would you mind leading us in the invocation of the pledge?
Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you in prayer today, Lord. Thank you for the day that you've given us. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, Lord, for this meeting. And we pray for the college and institution as we begin this academic year, Lord. Be with each one that's here. Lead us, guide us, direct us in all things we do, Lord. We thank you once again for the blessings in our life. All these things we're asking in your precious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You were all emailed the agenda. I would like some consideration and approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
Mr. Garrison makes a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Richardson. This is all in favor. Say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Consideration and approval of the minutes of the June board meeting. I believe in your board book, which was emailed to you, you have a full slate of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes from the previous board meeting.
Dr. Richardson makes a motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Garrison, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of college financial report. Ms. Eubank?
Thank you. Let's start on page 7 of the board book. This is a year-to-date for June 30, so the fiscal year that we just completed, compared to June 30 of 22. So 22 compared to 23. These are still unaudited numbers, so they're still not completely final, but it gives you a pretty good idea of kind of where we landed at the end of our fiscal year. You can see in a number of our categories, less than where we were last year, but again, they're part of that same pattern that we've been talking about each month throughout the year related to enrollment. On the following page, you can see the expense side of that. Again, very similar patterns to what you've seen each month in the fiscal reports. And then if you look at page 9, if you look at the revenues minus the expenses, we've actually come out with a current year-to-date bottom line of just over $6.4 million as compared to last fiscal year of not quite $7.6 million. That puts us below last year's earnings by $1.1 million. However, you'll remember that fiscal 22 included $2.3 million of federal fiscal funds related to the pandemic. That was one-time funding. So we'd expect to be below last year's bottom line of that amount. So by only being below 1.1 million as opposed to 2.3, that means we're actually, the one-time money notwithstanding, actually outperformed last fiscal year. So good news there. Any questions on that before we change gears?
What would be the reason that these aren't final numbers, Charlotte?
There's a number of adjustments that we have to make going into audit. So these numbers reflect more of a sort of a cash basis so that they're comparable to the budget to actuals that you see every month. But there's all kinds of adjustments we have to make for audit standards that are related to various GASBs and various goals that we have to make for audit presentation.
Okay.
So we're still in the midst of those.
Okay.
Auditors will be here the week of September the 18th. So between now and then, we'll be working on making all those adjustments.
And we still have some CARES money not spent yet, no more coming in.
Actually, as of June 30th, like barely within the last few days of the year, we've expended all of our CARES funds. That last bit was allocated towards the HVAC project. So now we'll switch the funding source because that project is continuing, of course, we haven't completed it. So the remainder of it will be in this fiscal year, but will be funded by reserves. So going to page 12, this is also end of the year, so also June, but it's a budget to actual rather than year-to-year comparison. So you can kind of see those comparisons. So we actually outperformed our budgeted revenues in terms of tuition and fees, as opposed to being behind what we were last fiscal year, because that's just actuals to actuals. So we had budgeted very conservatively for this fiscal year, so that's a big reason why we outperformed that. If you'll remember, our enrollment numbers did do a little bit of a bounce back there in the spring and summer terms, so that gave us that little extra bump there compared to what we had budgeted. Also, towards the bottom there of non-operating revenue, that is also a revenue category that we exceeded budget. That's largely due to taxes, to our property taxes. That's an estimated number every year, so we were just able to exceed that slightly. On the bottom half of the page, you can see on the expense side that we were very conservative. The one that stands out there is operational maintenance and plant. A lot of that is underspent because we budget for a lot of projects, improvements around the campus and stuff. Those are, because they're being performed in-house, those are very much subject to a timeline and so forth. And so sometimes we budget for a lot of things that don't get done, and that often gets carried over to the next fiscal year. So you'll see a lot of, like HVAC is a good example of things that will carry over to the next fiscal year. So then if we look at page 15, we get our first look at the new fiscal year. So this is as of July 31st. So this was just the first month of our new fiscal year. So that's just 8% of the fiscal year. If you look at the top half, you can see we've got a pretty good start to the fiscal year. Tuition and fees in particular, we're at about 45% of our budgeted revenues. Of course, this is still in the midst of fall enrollment, so as of July 31st, so 45% is a real good beginning to that. So we'll see that move again when we look at the August numbers next month. Other categories, just getting started, auxiliary enterprises follow very much a similar pattern to tuition fees as we get students in for books and housing, largely there. And then looking at the bottom half of the page of our expenses, sort of using that 8% as a guideline, you can see most of those categories are below that 10% mark in that 8% category. Institutional support, as you can remember from years past, is always just slightly ahead because we have a number of very large contracts for like our Microsoft contract and the Lucian contract for our student information systems and that sort of thing that are paid at the very beginning of the year. So that beginning of the year is always just a little skewed in that category. Looking on page 17 for this fiscal year, I mentioned the capital projects. You can see there some of the things that we have carrying over from one year to the next. We continue to do some improvements to the Westover building that we're in now, that we have ongoing, as well as some refurbishments to the Tin and Fine Arts Center and the classroom areas. offset by insurance proceeds. So, that is $1 million on the expense side, but it's also $1 million that we expect to get from insurance. That's just going to be a pending claim, that costs fiscal years. Following that, then we look at our cash position. You actually have two different reports. You have one on page 20 that was at the beginning of July, and another one on page 23 that was the beginning of August. One of the things to note on there is the blue piece of the pie, the designated reserves. That does get reset with each new fiscal year because it's set at 25% of our operating budget, which of course changes from year to year. So you'll see a little bit of a shift from one report to the other on that number, and that's why we just reset that annually. Other than that, the variations there are just part of our natural spending patterns as we begin a new semester. On page 24 and 25, you see a list of our certificates of deposits. That we do not have any changes in those. Actually, in 26 and 27, we have the same, just one being for July. Again, no changes to report there. We do not have any bids to report this month either. And then finally, on page 30, we do have some proposed budget amendments. This is for the current fiscal year. For our first month in July, because we can barely get the year started before we have some changes. A lot of these are because we don't quite have all the information, especially on some of our grants and so forth, going in to the new budget, and those numbers then are forthcoming in those first couple of months of the year, and so we can make adjustments for that in our amendments. So that's what a lot of these will represent. Also, we had a number of vacant personnel positions in the initial budget, and as we filled those, we're just right-sizing that as well as those from those estimated numbers. On the bottom half of that page, then also in the capital budget, you see that shift for the HVAC project from being funded with the HERF and CARES funds. Those have now been fully expended at the end of the fiscal year for June 30. So the remainder of that project then will be funded through reserves. Any questions?
Seeing none?
Make a motion to approve the financial statement as presented and the proposed budget amendments also.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion to approve the financial report as presented with the budget amendments. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Eubank. President's report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And first up, I'm going to ask Ms. Jonelle Seifert if she will come forward and talk to us about this year's drama camp, 31st year.
Well, Broadway director Harris Pastovich once said, "There's no real theater without taking risks." And I'm here to tell you that these kids took risks every day. We sang, we danced, we acted, we did readers theater, and we ended with a performance for the parents, which was great fun. I always have two goals for camp. Number one, that it's a great experience for the kids to have fun and to learn about theater. And number two, that the college made money on the camp. So this was a financial success for Three Rivers because these two goals were accomplished. So once again, drama camp sold out. In fact, we sold out 5 weeks before the deadline. So that's the good news. The bad news was we had to turn away quite a few kids. And in my 33 camps, I've never had to do that. So we had 40 from Dexter, Donovan, East Carter, Twin Rivers, Neelyville, and Poplar Bluff. 45 last year was just too many for us to handle. I couldn't give the attention I wanted to for each kid. Neither could the choreographers. So regarding the finances, the 40 kids paid $75 for tuition, and then I sold $500 in program ads. And I think you have a program in your packet, so you can look and see who our sponsors were. When you see Mary Lila and Laura Dow, please thank them. Again, they refused to be paid for being the choreographers. So thank you, Dr. Payne, for hiring me to do the camp. Put me down for next year. And I'll end with a quote from a Broadway actor. "Life is more beautiful with theater.
next year by doing 2 camps.
Well,
So,
do another week.
yeah, so it is really a wonderful experience. We have never, in all of the years that this has been done, I have never heard a single complaint or dissatisfaction in any way about anything that went on. It really is a wonderful experience for the participants, and it adds a piece that a lot of kids don't get to experience that really impacts how they learn and how they go about the rest of their educational experience through school. And I think that's a piece that gets lost a lot of times, is involvement in this kind of activity stimulates parts of the brain that then make learning easier in other cognitive fields. So it is a valuable community piece. So thank you again, wonderful job as always. Next, I would like to bring Coach Phipps up to talk about his Battle of the Bulls that was held here in Poplar Bluff on July 22nd.
So this started out last October, actually, after our college rodeo. I was informed that the JCs was going to be doing some work, and Dr. Payne and I discussed. I said, well, that's fine, we'll move the college rodeo back to Poplar Bluff because of the history of the college rodeo, of course, in Poplar Bluff. Dr. Payne had his reservations and said, we'll just do 2 college rodeos. Thank you, baby Jesus, I didn't have to do 2 college rodeos. We did the bull ride instead. And so this was to test the waters, because the last few years I've got a lot of compliments from people around town about our college rodeo being in Sykeston and them wanting it to move back to Poplar Bluff. I think a lot of it has to do with the economic impact from the rodeo. So this was kind of to test the waters on all that. And also, there hasn't been an event like this at Ray Clinton. I think it's they said 8 to 10 years since they had a rodeo out there. So we sold $16,000 in sponsorships for this event. It cost around a little over $17,000 to have. And the gate brought in just shy of $12,000. I think it was $11,600 is what we brought in through the gate that night. Didn't ride near as many bulls as I was hoping they would, but I think all in all it was a great event. Everyone that came has talked about it tremendously. I think the conversation about it was all positive. And I think it was a great testing event to see about maybe moving our rodeo back here in the future. And I do think a lot of people would support the rodeo if we moved it there in October. And there's a chance. I've had a lot of people ask me about the sport riding next year. They want it. They would like to see it again. They loved it. And maybe around the 4th of July, I guess there used to be a huge one around the 4th of July there. We haven't discussed on whether to do it again or not, but there's a lot of people that was interested in it, and it went great. So,
How many other schools participated in this?
this was a open to the world bull riding. This was not a college event. It was anybody could enter, professionals to. I think there was a 16-year-old kid in it, and his parents came with him. So it was just an open event, bull riding. It paid out $3,800 to the guy who won first and $2,500 to the guy that won second. So it paid really good.
Is the arena suitable to your standards for a future rodeo?
There's some things that would need to be changed, but I mean, like their panels are quite old, and I had to do little repairs on it. But yes, all in all, I think so. And I think no more numbers that we've got at Sykeston and the money we
don't get a whole lot of sponsors for the rodeo at Saxton, do you? Local sponsors.
Not just a whole lot. The ones that we do get are people that are just kind of wanting to help us. And then when I took this board item to them, a lot of them asked me, said, well, we would rather sponsor this since it's in town and not the rodeo. And I said, oh, work with us on this, and I'll double you up this year. And we did a lot of that, where they will be sponsoring the rodeo as well. The economic impact of the college rodeo is this is a study from UT Martin. UT Martin says $1 million or a little over $1 million for that weekend, because there's 350 to 400 students come into town on Thursday and don't leave till Sunday. They're buying fuel, food, motels, and I think a lot of people in the town of Poplar Bluff would be excited for that. When I visited with the chamber over this, they were excited about us doing something. It was kind of too late for them to get around, but they would love to have any kind of events like this according to them and build around it. They said if we did have our college rodeo here, they would like to make it something like a rodeo week. And that was one thing I would like. It'll never happen in Saxon because they have the rodeo, and they have their rodeo week. But I would love to see the town get behind and like maybe even a parade one day or something, you know. But just the streamers and the businesses advertising in the windows, stuff like that. I think it'd be great. But this was a successful event for sure. So, any questions? Any more questions?
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
And I'm very pleased to announce that the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, the National Hall of Fame, has inducted Coach Gene Best. So that is Coach Best at the induction, wearing both his ring and Hall of Fame jacket. So truly an honor, a once-in-a-lifetime event that is well deserved by our long-standing coach, who is the winningest coach in all of college basketball, and I believe all of college sports. And then fall convocation, so August 14th, everyone at the college came together to kick off the new academic year. It was a great day of being together, introducing new members of the team, talking about the things that have gone on over the previous year, and some focus on how we're going to move forward and the things we're going to focus on in the coming year. So convocation was a very positive experience, and I believe a good time was had by all. So we're off and running. First day of classes happened this week. Always good to see students back on campus, and right outside we're setting up for Raider Days, which is our student clubs and orgs event, which we'll cover next month. Some upcoming events: Raider Resource Days, August 21st through the 23rd. Achieve It kickoff sessions, August 23rd to September 1st. They'll be done 2 to 3 o'clock in the Plaster Free Enterprise Center. Job Fair with the Missouri Job Center will be held at the Best Activity Center on the 29th, 9 to 11 in the morning, 1 to 3 in the afternoon of that day. It's a partnership between us and the Missouri Job Center. Then we will be closed September 4th for Labor Day, and then we will be participating at our Dexter location in the Brewing Business Coffee event, which is somewhat like the First Friday Coffee here in Poplar Bluff, so interacting with our community friends and colleagues. Then on September 8th in the Tennessee Fine Arts Center lobby, we're going to have a new event, Music Bingo, from 7 to 9, with a $10 entry fee. So just a fun night with bingo in the music department. Everything Rolls food truck will be part of that event, and water and snacks are provided by our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Then September 9th, 8th annual Run for the Arts. So the Run for the Arts is a 4K run that is a fundraising event. 100% of the proceeds go to fund fine arts scholarships here at the college. Then Meet the Raiders is September 11th at 6 p.m. in the Lively Family Sports Complex. Free admission to students and employees and a $5 meal ticket for non-students. Then How to Spot a Narcissist is part of our mental health series. It'll be a 3-part event. The first one, September 11th, then followed up with the 18th and the 25th. It is free to attend, but prior registration is required. Then we have a nursing accreditation site visit on September 13th. We have sent in all of the requisite paperwork and self-study and are prepared for our visit, which will happen next month. And that, sir, is the President's report, and we do have executive session.
All right, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Dr. Richardson, second by Dr. Hager. This would be a voice vote, a roll call, excuse me.
Trustee Featherston?
Yes.
Trustee Richardson?
Yes.
Trustee Hager?
Yes.
Trustee Garrison?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Sure, why not? Does anybody need a break there?
I'm good right now.
Thank you. We are back into regular session. I have the paperwork here, over there full, it's okay. Discussion and ratification of a settlement agreement.
We have settled the Sloan matter for a nuisance settlement of $3,000. So basically, as a favor to our insurance company, we agreed to settle, and I'm asking that you ratify the settlement agreement.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion, so.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Garrison, Dr. Hager, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Featherston?
Yes.
Trustee Richardson? Trustee Hager?
Yes.
Trustee Garrison?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
By all means. Let's move to consideration and approval of personnel actions and associated documents.
I make a motion to approve all personnel actions and the associated documents presented with them.
I will second that motion.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call.
Trustee Featherston?
Yes.
Trustee Hager?
Yes.
Trustee Garrison?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
No, you have it written out. I can't say no. Yes. All right. Is there anything else?
That is it.
I make a motion to adjourn.